And I know this is going to sound incredibly extreme, but I really do mean this when I say this. It's my personal opinion, again, just remember that, just opinion. IOTA could be either the worst or very, very, very best investment that you could make in the whole of 2018. The reason I say that is because its current valuation of around about $7 billion is based on the successful implementation of an unbelievably brilliant idea. What's that idea? A decentralized cryptocurrency that actually becomes much more faster and more secure the larger the entire network gets, and that has zero transaction fees. This will potentially allow it to form the backbone of the Internet of Things economy. That is absolutely massive, and if we're talking about, in terms of potential market caps, if they were to pull this off, then I can't help but feel like it would be worth at least the value of Bitcoin in its kind of current, very slow, expensive state, which is valued at around, what, $190 billion right now, I think. So from the kind of $7 billion-ish that we're at right now, that is the potential for unbelievable growth. That's why I would consider it to be potentially the very best investment that you can make this year with cryptocurrencies. But there is a massive, massive kind of however attached to that. And that's that this idea is very much still hypothetical, which is why it could actually be one of the worst investment decisions you make as well. IOTA's current valuation of around $7 billion is absolutely enormous. It is absolutely sky high right now, when you consider that it still very much depends on the use of a centralized coordinator in order to guarantee the security of the protocol. In the eyes of many, many people out there, IOTA can't even be considered to be a decentralized currency until the day where it finally does away with a coordinator altogether. This might be incredibly harsh and unfair, but just as a good kind of analogy to paint a picture in your minds, betting on IOTA right now with the use of a coordinator is kind of like betting on a cyclist to win the Tour de France when they're still using stabilizers on their bike. But again, once they demonstrate that they actually can be a secure, kind of fully functioning network without the use of that coordinator, and I do believe that might potentially occur at some point in 2018, then at that point there is absolutely tremendous potential for growth. I think there are some minor improvements and developments that are going to be made in 2018 which will have a pretty positive effect on the price of IOTA as well. I think once we actually have a user-friendly desktop wallet for people to use that doesn't require people to attach to the Tangle and which doesn't involve them having to see zero balances on their wallet, which gives many people a kind of minor heart attack, those kind of things will do wonders for the price. And if IOTA manages to stay in the kind of top 5 to 10 of all coins out there, then eventually, and again at some point in 2018 in all likelihood, they're going to get hardware wallet support at some point from the likes of Trezor and the Ledger Nano S as well, which again is absolutely huge because I know that so many people out there don't feel comfortable storing large amounts of cryptocurrencies if they can't use something very safe and reliable like a hardware wallet. I'm sure more exchanges are going to start dealing with it and offering it as well. I know that people in America in particular, everyone in the US, they've had problems with Bitfinex. They've been essentially barred from using that exchange altogether, and so I think that's pretty much the main exchange or marketplace for IOTA right now. And so once we have many, many more options for everyone around the world, that's only going to do good things for the price. And I'm also going to leave you with a link to a website that is tracking all publicly announced IOTA real-world projects. They've got some big names on there. It's really exciting. Check that out and you'll feel bullish, I'm sure. And so it's for all of those reasons that I consider IOTA to be my own personal kind of moonshot pick for 2018. I think it's far, far too risky to even consider kind of betting the farm on IOTA in the same way that people have done for Bitcoin and Ethereum. I think it still has to prove itself in many ways before it would even be remotely deserving of that kind of risk, not to even say that Bitcoin or Ethereum are. But I do believe there is great potential for, good profits out there. At the end of the day, you could either lose 100% of all the money you put in, but there's also the chance that I think with IOTA you could make 1000% returns on your money. So you just have to kind of weigh that risk reward ratio up. Moving on to my number 2 choice of cryptocurrencies.
There's many reasons to like NEO. They have an extremely devoted community and volunteer developer group, many upcoming ICOs that will add to the already robust ecosystem that, importantly, all stand to benefit from each other. And NEO is primed to be working with the Chinese government. Look, I love Ethereum and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. And I get what EOS is trying to do, even if it's not my favorite coin. But NEO has the right things going for it that makes it a no-brainer to be playing with the big dogs in the top 5, the 11 and 12 figure Trace Commas Club. Now, as a caveat, NEO is staying centralized for the near future until the smart economy is mature enough. sort of like how IOTA is keeping the training wheels on the Tangle with their coordinator for the time being. Look, some people disagree with NEO's stance, but it's undeniable that centralization is more efficient in some instances. After all, that's how the existing systems of the world work. NEO is built to be regulation compliant. Ethereum is the Wild West, but NEO's been built from day one to work in China, which is a communist regime. It stands to reason that Ethereum will never be accepted in China because the government can't regulate it. So the big thing with NEO is its NEP5 tokens. So what's a NEP5 token? Well, a NEP5 token is a token which does not have a blockchain of its own, and instead is created on the NEO blockchain. The NEO blockchain will process the transactions for any NEP5 tokens in the same way that it will process NEO transactions. NEO's NEP5 tokens are the Ethereum equivalent of ERC20 tokens. The advantage we're going to capitalize on is that NEO is a relatively new project, and NEP5 tokens are a relatively new addition to the cryptocurrency space. NEP5 tokens is the way they're building out the NEO ecosystem. It's smart economy. A lot of them seek to add functionality to the ecosystem to make it a more robust and intricate organization. After all, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So often we see very ambitious crypto projects that want to tackle the world's biggest problems with blockchain technology, but it's simply insurmountable because you need manpower just as much as you need direction. NEO's ecosystem is truly shaping up to be a smart economy because there's segmentation built into the design of it. As I covered earlier, a lot of the NEP5 tokens are going to mutually benefit each other. The majority of them are created to assist or benefit with the overall NEO smart economy. And in time, they'll not only interact with NEO itself, but each other, and that's truly amazing.
I've had most of my money invested in it since the beginning of 2017 now. It's served me incredibly well so far, and many of you watching this, I know. And I am insanely bullish about what 2018 has in store for it as well. The main reason why I'm so bullish about Ethereum's prospects for 2018 and beyond actually is because there's very much a clear scaling roadmap in place that the entire community has agreed upon. There's kind of general consensus there. Throughout much of 2017, the Bitcoin community spent so much time arguing between themselves on Twitter, discussing the philosophy of Bitcoin and what Satoshi would make of the current situation today. And so many hours of engineers and core devs' time was spent on preparing for contentious hard forks like SegWit2x that never even happened. And so, on the whole, there was just so much time wasted on silly things when all those time and efforts and resources could have actually been devoted to the tech itself. But with Ethereum, because there's been general consensus on which direction the entire Ethereum community wants to take, we've been able to focus all of our time on just the tech alone and how we can make Ethereum scalable to serve a worldwide audience of billions of people. So for much of 2017, we've had the groundwork laid down for scaling solutions like Raiden, Plasma. We've had countless ICOs raise funds to build great things on the platform as well. And in 2018, we're going to start seeing all of these things come into fruition. We're going to have projects like Omisego that utilize the Plasma technology. And of course, in the first or second quarter of 2018, we're going to have Constantinople as well, which is the kind of second half of the Metropolis upgrade. And it's going to introduce a small dimension or a hybrid of proof of stake consensus mechanism along with proof of work as well. So that's incredibly exciting. Then hopefully towards the end of 2018, there's a very realistic chance that we're going to see the highly anticipated Casper upgrade as well, where we fully transition to proof of stake as a way of securing the network. And it's at this point that Ethereum could attract significant institutional investment, as these investors can earn staking rewards from the ether that they own in the same way that they can earn dividends from the stocks that they own right now. Plus, on top of this, you've got all the continued investment and development from all of these enormous companies that are in the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. And I think the biggest factor of all, for me anyway, is the kind of positive or neutral reception that we've actually got from what can be called the establishment. There's always a lot of talk about governments wanting to ban Bitcoin because Bitcoin is perceived as this kind of rebellious libertarian project that's out to change the world and destroy governments and all that kind of stuff. And you just don't ever hear Ethereum spoken of in the same light as well. Rather than being painted as another kind of libertarian political cause, Ethereum is more thought of as just a politically neutral protocol or tech platform which actually large companies and banks and governments can benefit from using and investing in. Nowhere was this better illustrated in 2017 than when you had Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, one of the largest banks in the world, calling Bitcoin a scam and a fraud. All the meanwhile, JP Morgan itself is actually part of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. And so when you have what many consider to be the establishment itself kind of getting involved and utilizing this specific technology, again, it's just really hard for me to see how this couldn't have an unbelievably positive effect on the price and the value of Ethereum. And so that is why Ethereum remains my #1 pick for 2018 and why I will continue happily to have most of my money invested in ETH.